sure that you guys can hear me. I'm just going to double check on my phone here. Yeah, so that seems to be working fine. Welcome, you guys. Welcome to our first chapter to our book, How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk. I'm so excited for this, you guys, because I have struggled with parenting techniques. The last year had been a lot of struggles, a lot of tears, a lot of yelling, a lot of frustration. And I needed support with that. I needed some tools to put in my pocket to be able to utilize and support myself and my kids and my family. So that's when I started to do different courses and read various books and just kind of bring in the knowledge to my awareness so that I could do better for our entire family. And I thought, how cool would it be if I could just bring more awareness to other families and start like a virtual book club. I've never been part of a book club before. So I'm just literally flying with this as I go. This is how I would enjoy it and how I would do it, obviously, because this is how I'm doing it. So I'm going to do a chapter a week. And I'm doing it via Zoom so that if you decide to grab this book, you guys don't need this book. You can kind of take the cues from what I'm going through. So every chapter, I'll just pick kind of like my golden nuggets that I think are like, yeah, like that's a legit thing, that a tool that I can use, or that totally makes sense. So I'll be able to talk about it and discuss it. And I really, really encourage you guys, definitely grab the book, click on the link and grab the book, because there could be things that you read and you're like, oh, that's key, right? There's also different exercises in here that you can do, a lot of blank pages that, or like space that they'll get you to do different exercises in the book. And again, that's not work that I can do for you. It's something that you'd have to do on your own. So I just am going to really pick out the key things. And I'm just like, yeah, that's like a really great tool or really great thing to discuss on. So every single week, Thursdays is what I'm going with, you guys, unless something else comes up that I need to redo a different day. But I'll let you guys know in advance for sure. But this will live in this group forever and ever, amen, as long as Facebook is available. It will live here in the guide section or unit section, whatever Facebook decides to call it at the time. Right now it's called guides. So it will live over there in the guides, and it will be week by week. So chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, and you can follow along. I'm also going to have a discussion thread over there in the guide section where it will be week or chapter 1 discussion thread. And you can post your questions. You can, when you're reading the book along with us, you can maybe share your favorite golden nugget that you picked out of that chapter or tip, or maybe you tried something that was in that chapter that really worked well for your family and you want to just share that experience. So there will be the discussion thread for each chapter that you can go ahead and comment in or take part in. So anyways, no fluff with this, you guys. My name is Haley. I'm a mom of 2. And I'm just going to go ahead. I'd like to honor your guys' time. So I'm not going to just ramble on and on and on. I'm just going to go ahead and dive into it. So chapter 1, you guys, like I said, I'm just going to really kind of read over the key things that have stood out to me and maybe discuss them a little bit. And if it's something that I've experienced in my parenting journey so far, kind of share a little story about how I've utilized that in our lives. So with chapter 1, and again, we're doing how to talk so kids will listen, and listen so kids will talk. And you can go ahead and click the link to grab this book off of Amazon. It was the cheapest place that I could find the book. But again, you don't need it. You can just kind of follow the cues that I'm giving you. And if you have questions and stuff, you're going to learn something either way, whether you have this book or you just kind of follow along this virtual book club that we're doing. So I hope you guys can hear me okay. From what I could see from my phone, the sound was working fine. So Direct connection between how kids feel and how they behave. When kids feel right, they behave right. How do we help them feel right? By accepting their feelings. Problem: parents don't usually accept their children's feelings. For example, you don't really feel that way. You're just saying that because you're tired. There's no reason to be so upset. Steady denial of feelings can confuse and enrage kids. It also teaches them not to know what their feelings are and not to trust them. So, you guys, it's really key and important to understand that our children are their own people, right? They are not us. We don't know, and we don't have sensors in our body to be like, you're feeling hot, you're feeling cold, you're feeling sad, we can help label their emotions. If we see that they are having a bad day and they seem frustrated, it's great to label their emotions. And if you're wrong, you're wrong. That's okay. And they can address that. No, I'm actually feeling X, Y, and Z. But we need to start accepting their feelings, right? So essentially, there's been experiences where a kid, my child has fallen and it's like, oh, get up, you didn't hurt yourself, you're fine. Well, no, right? Like, they have just fallen and they may have legitimately hurt themselves and their knee may actually hurt, right? So we need to, as parents, accept their feelings, because that's going to allow them to trust and know what they're feeling is legitimate, right? The next section that I have marked here is what finally helped me most was actually putting myself in my children's shoes, right? How huge is that? I asked myself, suppose I were the child who was tired or hot or bored, and suppose I wanted that all important grown up in my life to know what I was feeling. How huge is that? Sometimes, often, I do that now after reading this, and it's just like, oh, that makes total sense. How would I feel in that situation? So I put myself in the shoes of my child, if I was to fall. Yeah, that actually hurts, right? Sliding across the rug or what have you, rug burn legitimately hurts. If you go down the slide and you get that slide burn, right? That actually hurts. And to tell them just to tough it up and oh, you didn't hurt yourself too bad. Try to put yourself in in your kids' shoes, and being that grown up in their life that understands how they're feeling is huge. Another point here is, after all, we are two separate people, capable of having two different sets of feelings. Neither of us was right or wrong. We felt what we felt. Holy cow, you guys. Like, when I read that, it's just like, yeah, that totally makes sense. So good. So good. And again, these are just little tidbits of the book. I encourage you guys, because it really gives some great examples. And I'm not going to read, obviously, the whole chapter to you, because I'm not going to utilize all the time that we have together to do that. And I really encourage you guys to take this book, because it really gives some great examples of conversations. This one here: child, mommy, I'm tired. Me, you couldn't be tired, you just napped. Child, but I'm tired. Mom, no, you're not tired, you're just a little sleepy, let's get dressed. And the child again, no, I'm tired. Right? So, like, listen to our child's cues and their feelings. And then again, it has places that you can fill in different notes. Let's get to my next part here. So, ways that we can help with feelings: we can listen with full attention, you guys. So instead of, more often than not, especially nowadays with technology, I find that a lot of the time, the phone is in our hands, or the TV is on, or the gaming is on, and things like that. And a child will come up to us and be like, hey, this is and this isn't happening. And if we have our phone in our hand, or gaming system in our a hand and we're playing with these things and doing things on these things, that child is just really not going to be interested in sharing what they wanted to share with you, because they're not going to feel heard. They're not going to feel respected or anything like that. Like, how would you feel? I know for myself personally, you know, if I'm having a conversation with Matt and he has his phone in his hand and he's looking at his phone and I'm trying to say something to him, it infuriates me. It makes me very upset. So just think about how that child is feeling if they're trying to have a conversation with you, tell you something, and you're just constantly on that device or on the game or watching the TV. Actually take your attention, put the phone down, put the game down, pause it, and look at them, make eye contact with them, and allow them to know that they have your full attention. It's good to acknowledge their feelings with a word like, oh, and I see. And this is something that, because I've tended to word vomit everywhere, especially with my kids, like if they're doing something, no, you can't do that because this and this and this and this and la di da di da di da di da, and just going off. And by the time we get to the end of the paragraph, basically the story that we're saying to them, that you know, they're doing this wrong or this happened for this reason and what have you, um, they're gone. Like their minds are just like, this person doesn't get anything, and you know, they're gone. So utilizing short words, and they have really great, you guys, I love this, really great well, kind of like comic strips here. And I'll give you these examples here in a second, but acknowledging their feelings with words, just like a short words, has been really useful. I do it with my almost 7-year old. She'll be telling me something, and you know, my eyes are on her eyes, and I'll say things like, "Oh," and then she'll all of a sudden keep talking and keep telling me about her day or keep telling me about the situation that happened. Um, Give their feelings a name is another way to help with their feelings. Like I said, you can always, always, always give those feelings a name. There's no problem with that. And if you get it wrong, so say, you know, I see you're feeling mad, or it looks like you're feeling really angry right now. And maybe they're feeling frustrated. Like, no, mom, I'm actually feeling frustrated. Okay. It's great that you guys can work together to name the feelings that they're having. Give them their wishes in fantasy. So this is another way to help with their feelings, is to give their wishes in fantasy. And then on the next page, it shows um, various things that are really great visual. So if you're a visual person and need to see it that way, and it talks about, you know, listening with full attention, right? If the dad is sitting there watching TV, and the kid is, you know, you're not listening to me. Why is your back towards me? La di da di da. The father's like, I'm listening to you, but really his eyes are on the TV. No, you're not. Oh, forget it, right? Like that's what the kid says. And so it gives the example of how Eric, or the boy, is talking to his dad, and the dad actually pauses the TV or looks away from it and actually gives his attention. And you guys, these tools work so friggin' well. It's amazing. But again, just really great tools here. It's hard for a child to think clearly or constructively when someone is questioning, blaming, or advising her. There's a lot of help to be had with a simple "oh," or "I see." Words like these, coupled with a caring attitude, are an invitation to a child to explore her own thoughts and feelings and possibly come up with their own solution. So in this one here, this is the example. Somebody stole my new red pencil. And the mom is like, oh, I left it on my desk when I went to the bathroom and somebody took it. And all the mom says is, And then the kid says, that's the third time I've had my pencil ripped off. And the mom says, ah. And then the kid says, I know. From now on, I will leave the room. When I leave the room, I'm going to hide my pencil in my desk. So it allows the kid to explore all the options and essentially kind of figure out the problem themselves, which is really cool. You guys, these things work. They might seem so silly at first when you first try try these different tools. But once you start doing this, it's like, ah, yeah, this is cool. So instead of denying the feelings, when we urge a child to push a bad feeling away, however kindly, the child seems to get only more upset, So if you're saying, oh, you're not upset, or don't be upset, don't cry, it's just this, it's just that, it's nothing to be upset about, they're going to get more upset about the situation. So it's good to give them the feeling a name, and that really helps them kind of process the way they're feeling. So parents don't usually give this kind of response because they feel that by giving the name of a feeling, it just it will make it worse. It's just the opposite that is true. The child who hears the words for what she is experiencing is deeply comforted. Someone has acknowledged her inner experience. You guys, that's huge. That's so huge for a kid. Anyway, so these are the different kind of things that you can go through on these, and it's really nice for a visual. So there's the 4 possible ways to give first aid to a child in distress, basically, emotionally. By listening with full attention, by acknowledging his feelings with a word, by giving a name to his feelings, and by granting him his wishes in fantasy. But more important than any words we use is our attitude. If our attitude is not one of compassion, then whatever we say will be experienced by the child as phony or manipulative. It is when our words are infused with our real feelings and empathy that they speak directly to a child's heart. And that's true, you guys. It's huge. And then they have different exercises here on acknowledging feelings. And it's, again, nice to have the book, you guys. This is why I encourage you guys to get it, so you can put your own kind of words in there, and things that you think are going to be the feelings, and understanding that more. So that's fantastic. Statements like these that give children comfort and free them to begin to deal with their problems, right? So statements like, boy, you sound angry, or that must have been a disappointment for you, or you seem to be having some doubts about going to that party, right? Like, those are great statements to say. Sounds as if you really resent all that homework, or, oh, that must have been so frustrating. Or to have a dear friend move away can be pretty upsetting, right? Those are all really great statements. And when we actually put that feeling and label that feeling, it can be huge. So those statements can give really big comfort to the kids. So here's an assignment that you guys can really think about doing and consider doing at least once this week. Have a conversation with a child in which you accept his or her feelings, and jot down what was said while it's still fresh in your mind. Having a conversation and just, labeling those feelings and doing some of those things, and just see how the entire vibe of it went. So just a reminder, helping children deal with their feelings. Children need to have their feelings accepted and respected. You can listen quietly and attentively. You can acknowledge their feelings with a word like, oh, I see. You guys, that might sound so silly, but it works so good. You can give them the feeling, or you can give the feeling a name, like, that sounds frustrating. You can give the child his wishes in fantasy. I wish I could make the banana ripe for you right now, right? Because if you can say something like that, you can't make the banana ripe, but giving them in a fantasy, I wish I could make the banana ripe for you right now. It's like, I get that, right? The kid's like, yeah, like, she gets me. All feelings can be accepted. Certain actions must be limited. I can see how angry you are at your brother. Tell him what you want with words, not fists. And that's been a big one for us, because our girls can be very, very hands-on when they're becoming angry with each other. And that's something that we've struggled with, and allowing them to understand that I can see that they're angry about something, to use your words, not your fists, right? That's been a huge help for us. You may find it useful to make a copy of this, you guys, and have it kind of like posted somewhere. Just that way you can refer back to it really nicely. It is in his negative emotions that require our skill. That's where we have to overcome the old temptation to ignore, deny, uh, moralize, etc. So this was, I'm not sure why I had that one written down here, but oh, these are questions from parents. Oh, this is such a nice section, you guys. Sorry. So this section is the last section of this chapter, and it's comments, questions, and parent stories. And like I said, you guys, having this book is just fantastic because I'm just going to highlight like my gold nuggets from it, and you're going to come out with so much more with having the book. But this is the question that the parents had, and it is it important that I always empathize with my child? No, many of our conversations with our children consist of casual exchanges. If a child were to say, Mom, I decided to go to David's house after school today, it would seem unnecessary for the parent to reply, so you made a decision to visit a friend this afternoon. A simple, thanks for letting me know would be sufficient. The time for empathy is when a child wants you to know how he feels. Reflecting his positive feelings, um, presents few problems. It's not hard to respond to a youngster's exuberant, I got 97 on my math test today, with an equally enthusiastic 97, you must be so pleased. In his negative emotions that require, it's his negative emotions that require our skills. That's where we have to overcome the old temptation to ignore, deny, moralize, etc. One father said that what helped him become more sensitive to his son's emotional needs was when he began to equate the boy's bruised, unhappy feelings with physical bruises. Somehow the image of a cut or laceration helped him realize that his son required as prompt and serious attention for his hurt feelings as he would for a hurt knee. This was another really good one that I had. Noted was, what's wrong with asking a child directly, why do you feel that way? It's much more helpful for an unhappy youngster to hear, I see something is making you sad, rather than to be interrogated with, what happened? Or why do you feel that way? It's easier to talk to a grown-up who accepts what you're feeling rather than one who presses you for explanations. Another one here, are you saying we should let our children know we agree with their feelings? Children don't need to have their feelings agreed with. They need to have them acknowledged. The statement, you're absolutely right, might be satisfying to hear for the moment, but it can also prevent a child from thinking things through for himself. Example, child, the teacher says he's calling off our class play. She's mean. Parent, after all those rehearsals, I agree with you. She must be so mean to do a thing like that. End of discussion. But notice how much easier it would be for a child to think constructively when his feelings are accepted. Child, my teacher says she's calling off the class play. She's mean. Parent, that must be a big disappointment for you. You were looking forward to it. Child, yeah, just because some kids fool around at rehearsal, it's their fault. And then the parent just sits and listens silently. And the children continues on. She's mad because nobody knows their parts too. And the parent says, I see. And then the child continues on with, she said if we shaped up, she might give us one more chance. I better go over my lines again. Would you cue me tonight? Conclusion. What people of all ages can use in a moment of distress is not agreement or disagreement. They need someone to recognize what it is they're experiencing. So it's important to be specific and let your child know that you really do understand. I love so many of these examples. Oh, this is a good one, you guys. Is there any way to help a child who's upset other than by letting him know you understand his feelings? My son has a very little intolerance for any kind of frustration. Occasionally, it does seem to help when I acknowledge his feelings and say something like, that must be so frustrating. But usually when he's in such an emotional state, he doesn't even hear me. So there's different ways and different tools that you can actually utilize, you guys, that instead of, just saying that you see what their feelings are, one of the tools that this parent used was drawing out their feelings. So what they would do is, when their child was in one of those meltdown moments, they would take a pencil and or pen and a paper and say, here, show me how angry you are. Draw me a picture of how you feel. And so this child jumped up immediately and began to draw angry circles and then showed it to his mom. This is how angry I am. I said, you really are angry, right? And then you're able to label those emotions, and tore another piece of paper from the pad. Show me more, I said. He scribbled furiously on the page. And again, I said, boy, that's angry. We went through the whole thing one more time. When I handed him a fourth piece of paper, he was definitely calmer. He looked at it a long time, and then he said, now I show my happy feelings. And he drew a circle with two eyes and a smiling mouth. It was unbelievable. In 2 minutes, he had gone from being hysterical to smiling, just because I let him show me how he felt. Afterwards, my husband said, keep going to that group. That's huge, you guys, right? Sometimes people can't express the way they feel verbally, and we need to be able to allow them to use different tools. So not just speaking, telling us how their day was, or sharing, why they're frustrated and all these different things, but actually drawing it out or writing it out is huge. And that's an amazing tool to use as well. Sometimes when my kids, because my kids love drawing, you guys, and when they get home from school, typically what I'll say to them is, who wants to share their favorite thing about today? That's one of the first things I say to them. And their hands go up and it's like, me, both of them. I want to share my favorite thing today. So they share one of their favorite things of the day. But if that's not going to work that day, hey, do you want to draw me a picture of what you did today? Or, and it's really encouraging, and they really like that. And it builds a deeper bond with us, which is really nice. Another really good tool is to utilize this. So when they're really angry, and I've done this with the girls as well, show me how angry you are right now. Why don't you draw it out for me? And typically it's like the mad faces that my daughter will draw, mad faces or tears or what have you. And by the end of it, she feels really good. So giving them various tools to utilize. And that's what I love about the personal growth, personal development that comes with reading books and listening to podcasts and doing the courses, because you can gain so much from it. Anyways, they have so many different stories and examples here, you guys. I'm not going to take up any more of your time because time is limited, and I'm really hoping to stick to about 30 minutes with these, but I've really highlighted the big things that I enjoyed with the first chapter here. And so I encourage you guys, again, if it's something that you're like, oh, I want to read more of the parents' examples, because there's a good amount. I think they have like, they have so many different examples, at least 10 parent examples. Yeah, at least 10 of those. Just double checking to see if I had anything else noted down. Whole bunch of different parent stories. And I love reading them because it really kind of you can put yourself in the shoes of these parents as well. So there you guys have it. Chapter 1, kind of the highlights that I found really important in the first chapter, with how to talk to kids so kids will listen, and listen so kids will talk. Next Thursday, we'll be talking about engaging cooperation in chapter 2. So we'll have some key points that I feel are useful and helpful tools in that chapter. If you'd like to grab the book, go ahead and click the link to get that book and read along with me. And if you want to come into the Zoom call with me and just share your own experience, or maybe your own golden nuggets that you found from the book, because I love when anybody else can kind of lend their own voice of what they read, and it's like, yeah, that was one of the key things for me. Definitely jump into the Zoom calls with us. And also I'll post the discussion thread as well right after this call, so that you guys can go ahead and post your questions, or again, your own gold nuggets, or if you've tried something in the first chapter that worked really well for you that you want to just share that story with us, that would be fantastic. So thank you so much for tuning in for our first ever. This is our my first time doing this, so this is fun. Virtual positive parenting book club, with how to talk so kids will listen, and listen so kids will talk. So thank you again so much for joining me, and we will see you next week for chapter 2. See ya.